just do it. Literally, just do it. I feel like the moment you decide you want to do something, you've already decided that it's worth the hazard, worth the risk, worth the blood, sweat, and tears. Otherwise, you wouldn't have even thought about doing it. So just don't give up. If you're gonna do something, do it well. Keep yourself composed. Stand firm in your beliefs and your ambition, and just literally just go for it. What's the worst that can happen in most things in life?
Hey, on this episode, I'm joined by Tamika Martin, who is an entrepreneur and event planner. Tamika is into media as well as organizing events, and she's a female entrepreneur doing amazing things, or in the other part of England, the Midlands. Without further ado, welcome Tamika. How are you?
I'm all good,
Hello.
Thank you, Daniel. How are you? Thanks for having me on your show this evening. Yes, it's a pleasure to be here, and can't wait to get stuck in.
Fantastic. You see, over the last couple of years, I'm doing a strong, massive research into bringing a lot of female entrepreneurs because, as you know, in the industry right now, it's always very hard to find a very successful female entrepreneurs who are willing and open to have a conversation or chat, about entrepreneurship, the highs, the lows, and we're doing so much hard work right now to literally kind of bring people like yourself in this podcast to help us inspire and motivate other entrepreneurs, especially in the world where right now we are, where a lot of females are actually becoming very obsessed about success, wealth creation, money management, and just making that transition in their life. So I'm so fired up to have you here on this episode today of the Wealth and Business Podcast. So for those who don't really know Tamika, who is Tamika and what got you into entrepreneurship?
So Tamika is a serial entrepreneur. That is what I consider myself to be. I've been an entrepreneur for the best part of 10 years. So I literally kind of put myself in the entrepreneurial space back in 2013, I think it was, after landing a placement on a local radio show for BBC Radio Nottingham. I was a guest speaker on there regarding a beauty pageant that was happening at the time. It was for sickle cell. So basically there was a group of ladies from the Midlands that put together a pageant. My kids entered the pageant. One of them came first place. The other two were runners up. It went really, really well. And I was asked to come on to BBC Radio Nottingham to discuss my setting in that environment, and the fact that my children had come quite far in being a part of the pageant. So what happened after that is history. They really liked me. They liked my aura, my tone, the delivery of the interview, and asked me to come back on as a special guest on a morning show called Loose Ladies. So on a Friday morning I would go on and would talk about local news, community issues, and events that are happening in and around the Midlands and things like that. I did that for some time, and then I was then invited to be a news reviewer for a black entertainment show on a Sunday, where I would also go on and speak about world affairs and news reviews and things like that. And I really got a taste and flavour for obviously radio and media and all of that, and decided with my own ambitions and my charisma and charm that I think I'd do quite well with my own radio show. So fast forward into the future, about 6 months after doing that, I then landed my own show on an urban internet radio station, which was called What's Hot Radio at the time. And I was there for 4.5 years. With doing that, I was given numerous opportunities to go out into the community, speak with other businesses, local entrepreneurs, have guests on my show. I also delivered hosting the Nottingham Carnival on behalf of What's Hot Radio. Lots of collaborations. I interviewed Mr. Vegas, the dancehall mogul. I did some stuff with Rudy Liquid, a comedian from London. A. Marie, the R&B singer, went on tour with Snoop Dogg. Lots of great things happened off the back of being a radio host for What's Hot Radio. One year in 2013, I attended the MOBO Awards. And that is when I absolutely decided that showbiz and entertainment was going to be my thing. And here we are in 2023, still going strong with my own business and stuff. So, yeah.
Wow, it's so amazing, because the reason why I'm saying this, right? So you've had the opportunity of, spending time, backstage with the likes of Floyd Mayweather. I was actually on his fight, by the way, just a week ago. Amazing individual. You've interviewed the likes of Kerry, and the list of people that you have met and interviewed I can't literally go enough into the list because it's just so much. And you've done so well as a female entrepreneur, especially in this space as well, that, sometimes, there's this stigma in the industries that is almost like, women will do well, but the hooks, the loops that female have to jump, even in the workplace, and as well as even in the entrepreneurship space, whereby, men feel sometimes, we don't want to be told what to do by a female, and all these different, stereotyping that goes along in the industry. So for you as a female entrepreneur, having been in the media space, how has this been so easy, especially, or difficult for you? Because especially as a mother of 4, all right, and this all started over the last 10 years. How would you say this has made a huge impact, for you to, for example, becoming a better mother, someone who basically had to pay a lot of sacrifices as well? Because Absolutely. I think the biggest part of as a female entrepreneur is a bit difficult to manage life, manage home, manage the relationship, and as well as still keep your head above the water.
Yeah, and I've done it all, and I'm doing it all still. Obviously, that never changes as long as you're, a mother raising children, grandchildren. I've got a granddaughter as well, which I didn't share with you earlier, but I have a 2.5-year-old granddaughter, so she's now part of the pack. But I do it all for them. So obviously, I enjoy what I do. Most people who do something they enjoy want to be successful in whatever it is that they're doing. But for me, when you have children, it is about kind of, aligning yourself so that you can have that longevity with what you do, and you can leave a legacy, and they can be inspired and motivated by what you do. So that is definitely the epitome for me of what I do. But there has been some shortcomings, there has been sleepless nights, there has been sacrificing, when they've had to be left with my mum for a week or something because I'm traveling, I'm abroad doing something, or whatever that may be. They might have to have time off school because I'm doing something and I can't commit to doing something as simple as the school run. So things like that. Or even when you're setting up in business, you're ploughing some of your personal finances into your startup process. That might mean we can't buy this week, or we can't have that this week because mummy's doing this. So obviously now we're in a better position. But at the time when I was setting up back in 2014, it was some highs and lows around that time. And obviously they went on progressively for some years until things were set and the foundation had been made. So
quite interesting what you said right there. It can be quite really challenging, as a female entrepreneur, because of all the different baggages that comes with, being a female. The baggage of having children, trying to go with your children with the flow to make them understand, and as well as those late nights where, for example, you're up till late night and they want you to come to bed, and obviously preparing the meal. And then obviously the emotional roller coaster that goes even in your relationship. So how would you say for those, for those who are basically right now probably going to listen to this podcast, especially female entrepreneurs, because in my community, I'm a property coach, a wealth coach as well. I teach people how to create wealth using property. Now, over 60%. Over the years, I mean, at some point, my audience was almost like 80% female, and with a community that we have here, which is called the Wealth Circle, and other programs that I run, 60%, or rather over 60%, are usually female. Wow. So there is a sort of rise. There is a massive rise for female entrepreneurship. A lot of female are trying to build a legacy for themselves. A lot of female are trying to have that financial security, whereby they don't have the money worries. And there is usually this emotional roller coaster that goes around it. How did you manage to deal with those roller coaster? The days where you feel like quitting and you did not quit. The days where you felt like, actually, why does it make my life easy and just continue a 9 to 5? But today you've built a massive media outlet. But how did you deal with those emotional roller coaster? If you don't mind just breaking that down to inspire and motivate those who are listening.
Yeah, it's really important to actually reflect on that, and when you're in the moment, it feels like all the doors are closed around you and there's no answers to these emotions that are kind of throwing you in all different hemispheres. And for me, it was having a really good, tight friendship group. So that was first and foremost, alongside obviously having, supportive parents, of course, which, fortunately for me, my mother was really hands-on with myself and my ambition and supporting me with my children, their parents as well. So, other parents, fathers, or however that may be, supporting the children, even if it's just having them on the weekend or, when it's a holiday break of school or something, stepping in there as well to support. And then also your colleagues and your professional network as well. What does that look like? So if you've got everybody kind of cheerleading you from the same kind of hymn sheet, that's really helpful. Fortunately for me, I did have that support. And also a business coach. So I would always say to somebody, sometimes it's difficult when you're starting out and, you don't have the financial backative to kind of get yourself going. The last thing you want to be thinking about is paying for a business coach or mentor. But I would say, hand on heart, that really helped me. And there's a lot of people out there that are willing to do things kind of like on a trial basis. So let's see how we go. If we flourish, if it works for you, come back, sign up, and we can work. There's lots of networking groups and little hubs and forums that you can join as a female with female founders that are free. So they're quite cool to access as well, to get support with, whether it's just a vision or you are a startup or a new female founder in the space. It's really, really good to have those outlets. So for me, if I was giving any advice, it would be to definitely look at your immediate setup in your circle and how people can support you in your goals and your ambitions.
So, I totally agree with you. I was just taking a few notes or some things I wanted to expand. So just for the viewers, some of you might be wondering, why is he looking at it and why is he on his phone? I'm just basically taking my notes.
You're not being rude. You're very polite, actually.
Exactly. So you mentioned friends. You mentioned friendship circle, and as well as you mentioned the professional network, and as well as business coaching. So how would you say this played a massive, massive impact in your world as a female entrepreneur, especially when you were starting from all the way ground up? How did the friendship circle help you basically transform your business? Life?
It was just simple things as checking in with me to see how I'm doing each day, because you can get burnt out. Let's be real, it's hard work setting up a business, it's hard work running a business, and it can get quite lonely. So it's really great to have people just checking in with you. It might be a text, it might be a phone call. For a lot of the time you're really busy, so it's like extensive conversations may not happen, but it's great if you've got a group of friends that are kind of like, how's it going, or just telling you they love what you're doing, or asking if you need any help in anything. They might have a skill, it might be a soft skill that they can offer to your business, which obviously would be free of charge if it was a really good friend. And then like just little things like, even if you've had a stressful week trying to set up, or you've been doing something consecutively and it's like, I just need a break, just going for a light bite, a breakfast, a lunch, a little evening drink or something after a long day, and just kind of, asking how your day went and stuff like that is really important. And for me, it's having those friends that want to hear your process and to hear your achievements, because you do sometimes get quite lonely in the sense that people think, I don't really do that, I don't specialize in that, I'm not a business focused person, I do a 9 to 5, I go home, that's my life. Entrepreneurs often talk about what they've got going on or what they've been doing or what they've got going on next, and that's kind of like the conversation, because that's what you're used to on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes you do get some friends, which I've had in the past, that they're kind of like get a bit tiresome of the conversations, because it's like, well, listen, but we're not really engaging because it's not really what we're about, which is fair enough. I stopped having the conversations with those friends and looking for support. Instead, I obviously go to the ones that have a similar mindset or similar aspiration to myself.
So how did the challenges you had, if you don't mind sharing as well, what would you say the challenges that you had as a female startup at the beginning of this journey? How did the friendship circle really help you? Yes, you did a check-in with them every now and then, which is I totally agree. And you also mentioned about the loneliness as well. So if you don't mind just kind of sharing, was there a particular point in time in your journey as a female entrepreneur where you felt like, oh my days, this is it now, and things are not looking good at all? And how did you literally, first I like to know what that was, if there was any, and I also like to know how did the friendship circle really helped you get out of it. Because I've seen a lot of female entrepreneurs who I've mentored and who kind of are in my circle. Sometimes they say, it's come to a point where actually I was having a very interesting conversation with one of my female entrepreneurs, and she said, "You are so amazing, Daniel, as a business coach, as a property coach, you're so amazing. But at this particular point in time, there are things that I go through as a female that I will try to explain to you as a male that you will never understand." And I was like, tell me about it. I love to hear about it. But I'm sure for a female like you, as a female entrepreneur, there will be that time where you went through this kind of time where you feel like, okay, maybe the business circle wasn't even helping, whether they're females or whether they're male. If you don't mind, if you want to share any.
Yeah, I think for me, so my main problem at the time of starting up was probably juggling many different hats. Because you do, obviously, like you said, you're running a home, you're running a family, you're trying to set up a business, you've got your own personal emotions and things that's going on for yourself. And it's like, you're trying to please your partner and all of the rest of those things. And like I said, burnout is real. And for me, I think some of the times when the chips are low, it would be juggling all those things, thinking you're a machine, you're Superwoman, here to save the day, and literally just carrying on. You don't even see when it's getting to the point where just take a breath, take a breather. It's fine to kind of, bow out for a minute. It's not going anywhere. It'll still be there. You need to look after self first. So my friends would encourage me about that and kind of be like, giving me a bit of a rain check, like, in the most positively best way ever, just saying, some time out is really good. Whether I needed it or not, that was what their, advice would be to me at the time, which, looking back and even utilizing that now and understanding with my time management, that is actually really important, because trying to do everything and trying to have loads of buns in the oven all at once sometimes doesn't really work unless you're a genius, of course, which I'd like to think I am sometimes. But being realistic and being practical, and when you've got children, which obviously they come first before anything else. Well, for me personally, that is my thing: kids first, family first, business, everything after. So yeah, it's just that really. It's kind of knowing that they're there and they're willing to support you. And for me, I was fortunate to have that circle, but that was my thing. Juggling a lot of things and struggling, and knowing that I had people to reach out to that would obviously come to my rescue and support me.
Yeah, really amazing how a few things that you said in there. And before you wrapped up the last statement, there was something you mentioned as well, when you said, as a female entrepreneur, there were times where, for example, you had to get out of a certain circle to go to a different circle, because this circle, the information that you are communicating to them, it wasn't resonating at all.
Yeah.
But you had to find the right circle so that you say the right things and it resonate with them, and you were able to get some appropriate advice.
Yes.
How important was an environment for you to succeed as a female entrepreneur? Because it's two different things to be female entrepreneur and to be male entrepreneur. I don't know what it is to be a female entrepreneur, but I do understand that, especially in the industry that I'm in, wealth creation, property development, sales, marketing, social media, which obviously we're going to be talking about later. You find a lot of women having a lot of imposter syndrome, saying, "Oh, I don't belong here."
I've had that time.
My husband's friends, what are they going to say? My relatives, people from work, what are they going to say? And you have all these different things where sometimes, I know it's not a female thing or a male thing, but it's quite more difficult for a female, because a female will feel like, oh, my other half is meant to be doing A and I'm meant to be doing B. But instead now I'm doing pressure. A B.
Yeah.
It's a real pressure. It's a real pressure. And I've actually seen one of my female entrepreneurs where she got to a very high stress level and she started to lose her hair as a female entrepreneur. And every single time we had a one-to-one call, sometimes for the first 30 minutes, we would just stay there and she would, first of all, she had to just cry.
Which is okay.
She just had to.
This is the thing, we think we need to have this cape and, like I said, save the day. Not all of the time. Sometimes we just need to be heard. We just need a space where we can be comfortable and we can just be us. We're not an entrepreneur. We're not a mother. We're just a person, and we have feelings and emotions, and we want to vent that. So again, I want to voice that again, that it's very important that you recognize that from really early on. I didn't. I was kind of like, I can do this. My mum and everyone would be like, "Oh, Tamika, do you need to slow down? Do you need to, need to sort out this?" No, I've got it all in the bag. I know exactly what I'm doing. I don't want to hear it from anybody. You guys want me to fail. You guys do want to see me grow. And it's like, everybody's a bad guy. But no, actually, it's right. It's good advice. So yeah, you need to take it sooner rather than later, because it comes back to bite you later when like you said, your hair's falling out, or you're getting heart palpitations, or lack of sleep. No, lack of sleep's not very nice for anybody, but all of those sorts of things start setting in: panic, fear, worry, and feeling like you want to chuck the towel in, and you're just getting started, and it's not a really nice way to be at that point in time. So for me, it's about listening and learning, and just sometimes just kind of taking yourself back, reflecting, and moving forwards. With that being said, so yeah.
So as you were saying, basically, you were basically saying here that, as a female entrepreneur, obviously, there's a lot that goes behind the scene. And, and we were just talking about how you have been able to have different kind of conversation with the right circle, and how that's enabled you to sustain, your entrepreneurship journey. I mean, being in business for the last 10 years, obviously it must have been really tough.
Yeah, but it's not always been tough. I've had some great times, and I've had some amazing memories made from that. So again, back to the sacrificing. So it's kind of like, sometimes things have to happen for the next thing to happen. So that's kind of how I see something that, I wouldn't even want to use the word negative, but something that didn't actually go in your favor, how you've turned that around, utilized that experience and made it turn into your favor. So that's been that for me. When I'm quite an optimistic person, and I'm really outgoing. And I would say I'm quite fearless as well. So I think having those traits set me apart in terms of my outlook and my output to what I'm doing. So yeah. And some people, I wouldn't say they lack that, but they might not have tapped into that part of themselves to know that, hey, if I utilize these characteristics, actually it could work great for me. So yeah, that's my experience of that.
Yeah. Now, having spoken about all the different angles from a little bit of the challenges that a female entrepreneur encounters in this journey to actually building a business from the ground up. Now, looking back, over the last 10 years, you've been doing this, now just looking back and to kind of seeing all your successes from obviously being in backstage with Demi and Dash, meeting, the likes of Floyd Mayweather. And it all was just one upon a time, a small journey.
Yes.
That, getting started, you never thought, okay, how can I have met these people? Because meeting of these people obviously shows the level of success that you've had in business, regardless, for the fact that to be in backstages with these people, number one, it costs money. Number two, it costs time. Number two, it costs some level of success that you would have achieved in your journey.
As well.
To be in the right room. Yeah. Say that again?
I said it's a reputable thing as well. So, having the reputation for people to engage with you with these things. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Because now that you're enjoying all of these benefits that you've achieved over the last couple of years, was there any particular point in your career, especially, maybe let's just say for the first 5 years? I often say this all the time, and I say, if as a female entrepreneur, as a male entrepreneur, or as an entrepreneur in general, regardless of gender, the very first 2-3 years of your business determines where it's going to go. So, because they say most startup entrepreneurs don't even last the first 1 year.
Yes.
Because that's where the motion kicks in. That's where the pressure kicks in.
Yeah,
but looking backwards now, looking backwards now to where you now are 10 years later or maybe more, how proud are you? And what were the moments for you that you look backwards now and you say, wow, Tamika, you did it, girl?
Yeah. That's what I mean. Checking in with yourself, having the conversation with self-reflection, all of that. So I would say I actually wowed myself first, if I'm quite honest, when I won my first business award, which was in 2015. I remember it plain as day. It was when I was doing my radio stuff, and I just set up. A few people in the local community heard what I was doing and how great I was doing it, and they were like, yeah, let's nominate this girl. Because not only are you kind of setting the business foundation for yourself, but also community is at heart as well. Very much connected to my community, very much, helpful to my community and really do kind of go for my community. So with that being said, obviously getting a lot of love with that and a lot of recognition for that first. So it's kind of like the business hat kind of came second. But for me, winning that award and being a finalist and then winning that award, it kind of just blew me away. It was like, you did that. Do you know what I mean? And then it just kind of gave me a bit of a thrill and flavour into getting more accolades and being more reputable at what I do and really bossing up. I think that's what that initial award did for me. I was awarded by Nottingham City Council for my learning and development in the business remit. So that was really great. Met some great people off the back of that. And it opened doors for me, actually, because I then got interviewed by Experian, which is Europe's leading, score thing, you know what I mean. I've got a complete blank mind. See, imposter syndrome sets in. But yeah, they're the number one credit bureau agency in Europe. They gave me a platform. They sponsored my award. They gave me a platform to be interviewed by them, put online in some of their blogs and feeds, and that was great for me because then that obviously opened other opportunities for me to then have more interviews, other potential partnerships and collaborations. So yeah, obviously being in the first year of business, you're a baby in that space, and so it's kind of like the people want to touch you, but then they can see that obviously from the fact that you've just set up and you're being awarded for something that you're doing right, that's ticking boxes for quite a lot of people. So yeah, that was great. And then the following year I won another award for female business entrepreneur of the year against some other bigger corporations, which was great as well. So yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously you've not gone into having your own, like a very well spoken about, events. Tamika Martin's and Friends Entrepreneurship Brunch, and this is where you bring entrepreneurs together.
Absolutely.
And not just ordinary entrepreneurs, but people who have the aspiration to becoming the extraordinary, which is one of the things this podcast is all about. I mean, probably you'd have heard my story. I came to this country 20 years ago. 7 years ago, I was an Uber driver. English was not my first language. To rising all the way to becoming very successful in my property space as a coach, and right now, I know how hard it is to put events together. I know how hard it is to try to motivate a lot of entrepreneurs because every single entrepreneur who are out there right now have every reason to fail.
That's true.
They have every reason to fail because you know why? The odds is against them that you will never win. And the odds is also against them that, you can't do it. It's not for you. And you have this, again, you have this imposter syndrome. I don't need to be here. This is not for me. It's not for other people. And as well as over the years, we've been trained to be self-employed rather than being true entrepreneurs, which is actually building a business that over the next couple of years, it could actually outgrow you and pass as a legacy to your children's children. Because most people are building a business for the money to pay the bills today and just leave and live the lifestyle, buy the Louis Vuitton bags and just kind of enjoy. But I mean, I'm a strong ambassador of build a business, all right, that at some point in time you become the CEO of the organization and you start to work, not you work on the business, not in the business. Over the last couple of months now, I'm starting to enjoy that.
Yeah.
So for you,
that's why you went into
what's your angle?
Yes.
Yeah. So what's your angle? What's your angle from what that success looked like? For the fact that you obviously now run your own events, around media, around, bringing successful entrepreneurs to come and talk to your audience, talk to people in your community. What does success look like on that?
I personally think so. For me, and this isn't for every business, but once you get to that level of, you start off as like the founder, and then obviously, you may maintain the CEO role or a non-exec role or whatever that may be. For me, I've had the advantage of being very much the face of my business, very much, the main part of the brand, and kind of like being on the ground. Some organizations, they get so big that the CEO gets buried in the noise. You don't even, never get to really have a conversation with the CEO, or at that best, never even get to, know who that person is without going and searching them up online or whatever. But I think, with a smaller company, being an entrepreneur and having several business interests, that kind of sets you apart from that kind of position. Because let's keep it real, if you're very much doing what you enjoy and you're very much out there and you're connecting with all these people, hands down, trying to just doing it and enjoying what you do and having a reason to do it every day, for me, that's more appealing, and that is what will get you in those spaces and having these potential opportunities, as I have, having dinner with Floyd Mayweather, going there, doing this, lifestyle gets attached to that, and you just embrace it because you have now made it quite intimate kind of experience with those people that you engage with, or your stakeholders, whether that be your client, a partnership, collab, whatever that may be, an investor, whatever that is, it's with you, not necessarily the name of the brand, if that makes sense. So that's my viewpoint on that question, if I answered it right.
I really love how you kind of end that part of that question, because right now a lot of female entrepreneurs are not actually, there's not a lot of female entrepreneurs who are thinking about in line with building a solid network and as well building a brand. The likes of Kim Kardashian is an example today. All right, so I think every female entrepreneur should find an opportunity, in the worst case scenario of anything that could happen to them, and then leverage that to building a brand. But rather, we have a lot of different types of female today who are using the wrong, wrong images to actually trying to build a different brand. Obviously, anyone can go on social media and build different brands.
And be influenced or whatever, kind of go through against.
Exactly. So you have worked hard and tirelessly to be an ambassador of brand building, because you built one.
Yeah.
You in terms of connection, you have it. How important it is for every female entrepreneur at the moment to aspire to actually building a brand for themselves in business, in line with obviously what part of the market they represent.
It's really important for me, and I'm proof in the pudding. Like I said, it's kind of building the reputation first. People want to work with the person that's behind the business at the end of the day. If you go and do your background checks, it's going to basically boil down to who's running this business, what do they look like, what do they sound like, what do they do, how passionate are they about what they do, and, their success story, really. That kind of makes the shape and the mold of the brand. It's with any brand you get out there. It could be Nike, it could be Louis Vuitton, it could be someone who's, wealthy in real estate, whoever that may be. At the end of the day, the person themselves connects to the brand, and that's who people are actually looking up to. One of my role models is Richard Branson, for example. Why? Because I like how he started with a beer mat, in some shacked up place in his house, writing down some imaginative kind of reasoning about what he wanted to do with his life, and look where he is now. So that for me is just out of this world, and I hope to be able to tell a similar story one day. But yeah, it's kind of people like those that I look up to. I get my inspiration from, even knowledge. I read a lot of his books and follow a lot of what he actually does and what he's about. He's a philanthropist. I love his whole reasoning behind things he does and why he does them, and his whole ethos around business. So if you want to be that kind of person, and that's what a lot of entrepreneurs aspire to be, then it would start with kind of building your own reputable brand around your name and you, first and foremost, and then kind of like the business and all the rest of it comes after, if that makes sense. Well, they interline anyway. It's a paradigm, they align together.
Absolutely.
Sort of thing.
Absolutely. As we go towards the end of this podcast, I wanted you to kind of share with me, a key steps that every female entrepreneur, because right now, like you said, I am the face of my business, by the way. And over the last couple of years, just me being able to tell who I am, my personality, my life, my children, my marriage, and basically have shared so much about myself, that has allowed me to raise about 1.5 million, to building my assets, from social media, because friends online, imagine you and I, right? So we connected online.
We did.
And through the process of connecting online, we're here now on this podcast, and you was actually meant to be on one of my last events the other day.
I'll be coming to the next one, don't worry.
And people really need to understand the power of social connection. Obviously, if you don't have the appropriate brand and you don't have the appropriate engagement, you don't have the appropriate content, you're not going to be able to kind of relate with everyone. So it's quite important as a female or as a male to build a decent and a credible, brand. Imagine, I'm sure, if I was someone that you saw smoking, weed or, and I'm trying to build a brand, I would not be aligned to your brand. All right. And imagine maybe if I was the guy who is, as a guy, always taking off my shirt by the poolside all the time, maybe I might not be the type of brand you want to build.
Yes.
And the same thing goes for a female, because most time you see a lot of female trying to build a brand, but instead most females build a brand where there's a lot of nudity and stuff like that, and they think, okay, and that's probably the way to get it.
They do say that. They do say that sex sells. The industry never changes, does it?
Yeah, exactly. But they said if sex sells and all these different things sells in brand build. But then again, how can a lot of females right now who are going to listen to this episode of this podcast, based on the points obviously that I've just aligned, some people are trying to build, great brand with nudity. Does it then align to a brand that will actually allow an investor to invest with you? Yes, sex sells, nudity sells. If you're trying to build a brand with the fact of you want to have dinners with the likes of Floyd Mayweather, or you're trying to have dinner with, the likes of, Damon Dash and all these different amazing people that you've had connection with, it might not be aligned with the reason why they want to do stuff with you. So it's also very important as a female entrepreneur, you have to have a defined mechanism and process of who you want to portray. Yes. You have to identify who you want to be. And it's not just everything that is good on social media that you want to post on social media. Yes. You want to post in alignment for that brand you're looking to build. Are you trying to build a brand in the corporate industry? What kind of brand are you trying to become? So I really wanted to kind of go in deep, on how female entrepreneurs can emulate someone like yourself who's done so well, in your personal brand.
It's about finding your why as well. So I don't want to miss the point on that. I think that is really key. So finding your why, finding your purpose, living in your purpose. And for me, again, I want to use the word that I'm fortunate to be quite close to God. So a lot of what I do has a spiritual connection as well. Very much on the law of attraction, very much on, manifestation and all of these things. Now, if you don't know what some of those things mean, Google is just at the forefront of the tip of your fingers. You literally, just a click of a button, you can find out what some of these things are. Go on YouTube, tap it in, manifestation, loads of videos will come up on all of this sort of thing. But for me, it's kind of like who you be, what you're about, like, again, who you're around and what your long-term growth plan is and your strategy for becoming a success story. I didn't mention this earlier, but I'm also in a book. So I wrote a chapter for a book that was birthed in Paris, in France. It's called Successful Women in Business. It's available on Amazon and all the other online retail outlets. You can buy the paperback copy or you can read it online. But I wrote a chapter there about entrepreneurship and how it is to be a successful female in entrepreneurship. So you can definitely go and check that out if you want to know a little bit more on a kind of, like I said, in-depth, intimate, viewpoint on myself. But yeah, back to what you said. I think for me, it starts with your why. So knowing why it is you do what you do, and what you want to get out of it, what's your end result. Some females get halfway through the process and decide, oh, this is not for me, it's too much for what it's worth, it's too stressful, I just feel like I can't do this, I'm going to go and try something else, which is fine. But my thing is, if I'm going to go and try something else, whatever I started or I was beginning to build, I'm never going to leave that. It's always going to be shelved, parked, I can come back to it, it's there, while building or working on something else. And then you have several different things that you can then, build upon. You started it, might get midterm, you might leave, but you can always go back to that and essentially back to something that or something that you have experience in, that can be parked and built on at a later time. And for me personally, that's worked for me over the years, because I do other things as well. I'm a keynote speaker, I host events, I run events, I manage events from the bottom in, and then also my other personal brand that I'm an intellectual property owner for, Tamika Martin and Friends, Entrepreneur Brunches. I've got a podcast, I've got several other things I do. I'm a community champion with charity work and stuff like that. So yeah, there's several things I can do. If something fails, hey, well, we've got this or we've got that and we've got such and such. So Start with knowing what it is, why you're doing it, dedicate yourself, and just keep going. Literally for me, look back when you need to, just kind of like see how far you've come, but the road is long, and it's however smooth you want it to be. So that's me on that one.
I really love your attitude and approach and how you see things. Obviously, you can tell that you've been doing this for over a decade, right? You've been doing this for over 10 years. And I see and I see a lot of female entrepreneurs who start today and want to be you. A lot of female entrepreneurs who are listening to this podcast now would probably check you out on social media, follow you on social media, and all of a sudden wants to do what you have done. But it's not what you have done today that they see. Is the 10 years plus experience that you've had to have the right approach and to obviously rewire your brain and your mindset to obviously be courageous and as well as be someone that is not taking a no for an answer and just basically having different sort of approach around it. Obviously, you speak a lot of mindset. So for me, I think I probably want to ask you one of the final last questions before we end this podcast would be, for those who are listening right now, how much is it for experience, all right? How much is it that you are prepared to literally put in to gain that experience and to take one step at a time, and obviously never basically saying to yourself you're going to quit, because it's easy to start anything, and I've seen a lot of female entrepreneurs jump in to want to start. 3 months time they're burnt out, back to a job,
and that's okay. Entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. I get it. Do you know what I mean? Because I speak to a lot of people, I'm like, you should do this. Why do you work? Why are you building somebody else's empire? Why don't you build your own kind of thing? But it's like, everybody's got that willpower and that get up and go and the vision, which is fine. So do what you love and do what suits you best. But for me, you made a really good point about kind of like, what's the experience, what's the expertise around what it is that you're trying to build and grow and having that non-quitting mindset. Professional development, personal development is key in all of this, making sure you're continuing your professional development at all costs. So even though, I'm running a business, I find time to do training, I find time to do, long distance online training courses, networking events where I can learn from other peers, that have got a similar background to myself, or if not even just trying something new, and listening, paying attention, listen before you speak kind of thing, and just paying attention to what it is that is key to grow and kind of, head in the right direction at all times. So for me, because a lot of people just think, get up, go, I know what I'm doing, get on with it. But you need to take that time out to kind of understand the craft. It changes all the time. It's always changing shape, innovative processes, the tech processes, everything changes over time. So in that 10 years, that whole decade of me starting out and where I am now, a lot's changed. We've had a pandemic. I've pivoted through a pandemic. I was actually a finalist in a corporate awards in London, in Elephant and Castle, for pivoting my business during the pandemic. I mean, what's your resolution to, if something happens and it's like, it's got consequences behind that, what's going to be your contingency plan? So it's things like that. It's looking at things like that. It's looking at, leveling up in everything that you're doing and learning a new way, because things change shape and format all the time. So, what are you going to do if something suddenly changes and you can't adapt to that? So the professional element of what you're doing and working on self, like I said, learning how to manifest and doing all the other little bits of stuff around kind of self-care and stuff, it becomes into one, and then that makes you the better person that you can be, and also you're the better boss you can be. So I don't want to say.
Quite interesting the angle that you've come from. I keep saying, it's the last question I want to ask you on this episode, but the question just...
I'm going to have you chatting for England,
it just keeps expanding.
I thought you said we were boring. You want the Americans, you said. I remember. Way too long ago.
No disrespect to the UK. The Americans have this sort of mindset where let's go and be a millionaire. And the UK, we want to play safe. And the UK is always like, we want to play safe. I mean, I've used UK mentors and I've used, American mentors. The level of the way my business is growing, I get it.
It's the hustle.
I get it, but it's almost like, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But the Americans are like, no, listen, you've got to be ready for this. You could be a great... my mentor is Grant Cardone, right? And boy, he don't joke.
He's amazing.
Until
I've been joining some of his webinars, seminars, and
yeah,
stuff, and conference
you
things, and
know,
getting all the email insights. Incredible human being.
there's something happened to me when I started to follow, when 2021, when I actually joined his mentorship. Something I learned from him is like, I've been an entrepreneur for 22 years and I'm trying to build this business for this long. That at that time, 2020 was less than 4 years, or rather less than 5 years. And there's something he said to me. I was reading, there was a book I was reading because someone sent to me, "Oh, you're doing so much. You should read the 1 hour work week and all of this sort of book." And it's like, you must be you must be the worst CEO, all right, to exist. It's a dream. It's a fairy tale. There is no such thing as the 1 hour work week as a CEO, except you're just trying to build a living. Except you're just trying to make a living. All right. So which means you pay your bill, you pay the car, you pay the mortgage, and you live a good life. But that's not. You're just trying to be self-employed. You're trying to play safe. Entrepreneurs and real world inventors don't play safe. They take risk. And it was in America. I also learned, all right, this is one of the reasons I'm so passionate about the American entrepreneurs. And so in America that I've learned as well that a lot of entrepreneurs in America and investors or creators in America wouldn't invest in your business if you've never failed. If you've never failed up to 3 to 4 times, investors would not give you
the pivoting.
They will not give you their money.
They need to see that it's been tried and tested, hasn't worked, but what did you do about that? Like, what was the comeback?
Exactly. How many times did you fail? And whereas in the UK here, we're very careful about failing. We're very careful about failing. What are people going to say? I have failed a lot of times. In 2015, I lost over 150,000 pounds. When I lost, When I lost over 150,000 pounds in 2015, I went through depression and anxiety. Because first of all, I did not have the circle, which is what has changed me completely to now investing in myself. To going through that road of manifesting, going through that road of self-development, going through that road of literally understanding the ability to literally grow and manifest. So, and mentorship changed my life. Having a mentor changed my life, changed my business. Having someone who
changes your outlook, your viewpoint, everything. Everything.
Yeah. So you mentioned you failed as well. So when you failed, what did you do to pivot at that point?
I just think across the board in life, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. That is what life is about. It's a big playing field. You're going to get some goals. You're going to not score some goals. And I just think it's the same for business. And I think if you've got that mindset going into business, then, well, hey, anything goes kind of thing. That's what business is about. Obviously, you're not going to make silly, uninformed choices, and you're not going to literally throw all your money away, any given chance. But the point that I'm trying to make is you've got to absolutely understand that, sometimes you're going to gain even more than you even thought you could. And then other times you might be at a loss. And business will do that. You will have, revenue streams coming from all different angles at some point and be profiting from that. But then other times it might be, actually, I've got to go to market and I'm going to have to now invest in that. So I'm going to be down for a bit. But then obviously, once I make this investment, this will happen and that will happen. So that's what it is for me. My probably biggest loss or gamble was probably doing a gig of some sort and putting loads of money into getting artists doing this and that. It might be that the ticket sales didn't do so well for whatever reason. It might have been marketing or promotion or the kind of artist it was or whatever that may look like. And then literally kicking yourself saying, if I did this or I had more money or I could do it that way, maybe that wouldn't have happened. But hey, it's already happened. What are we going to do in future to kind of, avoid these sorts of instances again? And even that's not promised. You could put on 25 gigs or 100 gigs. A portion of those are going to be great, successful, smashed it. And other times it's going to be, I wish I never really bothered. So yeah, it's the same for anything in life, not just business.
Wow. Amazing. Tamika, it's been amazing having you on the Wealth and Business podcast. I can't wait to bring you back because there's so much to cover, but we can't cover all in all one episode. And as well as I'm looking forward to having you as one of the guest speaker, in one of our upcoming Wealth and Business, networking event, because the podcast in itself also has a networking event, which normally runs every quarter or every other, 4 to probably 5 months. So we over the last 1 year, we've run it every quarter. But as we continue to expand, especially with the summer, the summer networking event that's upcoming,
Yeah, there's lots of other things.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of other things. So I can't really wait to see you in person, and I can't wait to connect with you more. And I'm really so humbled that you've given so much value, especially to my female entrepreneurs who are listening, lovely, ladies, listening to this right now. I'm sure Tamika is giving you a lot of value. So guys, make sure you go and check out Tamika Martin on her Instagram handle, and as well as her business page. So how can people reach out to you for those who have listened to this?
Yeah.
And how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, Tamika Martin. I'm on Instagram. Got several Instagram pages, obviously, because of the different businesses that I run. But if you really want to connect with me, you can connect with me on my personal brand, which is Tamika Martin and Friends. And then if you go on my Tamika Martin official page on Instagram, you can click in my bio in the link there, and you can get my link tree, which has several different elements about who I am and what I do. So that'll be another great way. And also, I've got an event coming up on the 30th of April, which is my entrepreneurial brunch in Nottingham. I'm partnering with Revolution, the bar, and it will be a day evening event with some interesting guests. I've actually potentially got a runner for a seat in the Senate coming from Jacksonville in the States over there. His name is Rahman. And so hoping to have him come as a special guest. And we've also got somebody that looks around mindfulness and well-being and all of that, and spirituality and all of that. So it's going to be a great bottomless brunch. You can get your tickets from any of my pages on my socials and stuff. But it'd be great to see some of these amazing female entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs coming down and kind of meeting me and getting into the space and getting their feet wet in the entrepreneurial world. Be amazing.
Fantastic. So one word, just before we go, one word. What would you be one big advice you would give to any female entrepreneur now who's just starting out and all the emotional roller coaster kicks in? I'll give an example. My wife has been in the professional industry for 25 years. And she just became an entrepreneur just a year ago, April to be precise. And next month will be 1 year. So for people like that who've made that massive transition of doing same thing for 25 years and stepping into a world where now you've got to create, all right, to get paid. One word you have got for them.
Just do it. Literally. Just do it. I feel like the moment you decide you want to do something, you've already decided that it's worth the hazard, worth the risk, worth the blood, sweat and tears. Otherwise, you wouldn't have even thought about doing it. So just don't give up. If you're going to do something, do it well is my advice. Just keep yourself composed, stand firm in your beliefs and your ambition and just literally just go for it. What's the worst that can happen in most things in life? The worst thing that happens to any of us is our end meeting with our maker. While we're living and we're breathing, we literally have to just go with it. Just be the best version of you and try to serve others well and, try to be the best you can be in your remit. So that's my advice for new startups.
Wow. Amazing. Tamika, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Wealth and Business Podcast. And we're looking forward to bringing you on the event and as well as having a rematch sometime in the nearest future. Thank you so much for your time.
It's been amazing. And before I go, Daniel, I have one last gem to drop before I go. On the 8th of March, I'll be running a Zoom. I have a female event that I run every single year. It's called the Entrepreneur Collection, and it's for women from across the world. Literally, I've opened it out to a hybrid event so that we can get women from all over to join. And it's a free event this year because I want to give something back. It's been hard for most people post-pandemic and obviously, the cost of living crisis and lots of other things that have happened. It's quite an unsettled time for most people. So I just wanted to make it a free event and people can come and they can just listen, learn over a light lunch and engage be inspired by other women. So on the 8th of March at 12:20 up until 1 p.m. GMT time, that is, you can get the link online. It's an Eventbrite event. So you just go on Eventbrite Eventbrite, you put in the Entrepreneur Collection, 6th edition, sign up, and ladies, get yourself there. It doesn't matter what your background is, where you are in your professional career, just something in there for everybody. So it'd be great to have you all.